Hello, my name is Joseph Carlson. This is The Grief of Politics, episode 49. New year, new us. I am joined by Avin Carroll. Avin, how you doing?
Doing good. Good to see you, sir.
Co-host.
Welcome to 2025.
It's 2025, man.
Mm-hmm.
We're recording this on Saturday before the inauguration.
Yes.
The video of
Today
this
is the 17th? 18th.
today's 18th. This will post on the 20th, Monday at 7 a.m. The audio will probably go up early. So, are you going to watch the inauguration tomorrow?
No, I'm not going to watch it tomorrow. I might watch it Monday.
Yeah, I think I usually just watch clips.
I'll probably watch clips. I mean,
Yeah, I'll watch his speech clipped out, Trump's speech, because I want to see. There is this talk of how he's going to, what the tone he's going to set. Right, obviously the first one was American Carnage. Where everything's going terrible. So we'll see now what he says. Will it be? Remember, after one of the assassination attempts, it was right before the RNC. Didn't they say that his message was going to be unity? I don't remember the speech.
they all say their message is unity, Joe.
Yeah, I know. I don't.
And then when it comes to it, they all end up in it for their own party and interests.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're
So
just plebes. No
so
one
we.
cares about us.
I guess we have to say this in the beginning. Keep forgetting to do this. Please like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. If you want to write to Avin and I, write to us at gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. That'll be in the episode description. We're getting more views, but like every YouTube channel, you get views, you don't get subscriptions. So please subscribe. We're two people that actually get along and don't yell at each other. I think we just raised our voice in one episode, maybe. I don't even know if that's.
Yeah, we got pretty passionate about our first episode.
Yeah,
I still don't think we were yelling, but we were definitely raised voices.
Well, we were young back then. I mean, we're in year 5 right now, right? So we're seasoned veterans at
Look,
this. So
Joe, I say this at least once every episode. You're wrong. Just accept it.
I got it. I go to therapy. This episode, I wanted to talk about. A lot of people have been talking about, as they say in writing, the tale grew in the telling. I wanted to talk about Elon Musk and Trump. They obviously, Elon donated $200+ billion to Trump's campaign, and Trump won.
Yep.
And so now, there's reports that Musk is hanging out at Mar-a-Lago. There's also a report that I couldn't find when I was researching this, but apparently he might get an office across the street from the White House. Then I started reading about all these tech people who are going to be at the inauguration. And like I said, when I submitted the articles to you so we could do the pod, I had to stop because I went down a rabbit hole and it was driving me crazy. So I stopped reading, sent you the articles, and called it a night. And then continued to read more things, but did not send you articles, except for one more article about the actual budget. So I know... what do you think? Like, I tried to get kind of general. You see up on your screen, it's an article from the Daily Beast that came out on the 16th of January. 2 days ago? Trump's inauguration invites a huge middle finger to Biden. Basically, I like the Daily Beast. They're really good or bad with headlines, depending on where your politics are. But the idea was this has a list of everybody that's going to be on the dais, or at least near Trump. And it's pretty much a who's who of the tech, the tech trade. It's Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Sam Altman, Shuzi Chu, who is the CEO of TikTok. So remember, that's a big deal. TikTok might get banned. It might not get banned. He's at the inauguration. That I have heard most of these people I know, Elon, Bezos, and Zuckerberg, have given to Trump's inauguration fund, like $1 million. I'm not gonna, most lefties are like, yeah, it's a slush fund. It's like, I'm sure other presidents had the inauguration fund, but I don't know. It is weird that I don't know. I guess I didn't do the due diligence to go back and see who was on the dais with like Biden and all this stuff. It just seems weird that like all these people are like together seated together. I thought Sam Altman and Elon Musk didn't get along, so I don't know if they're going to be sitting by each other or they're just going to be on the dais. Um, yeah.
I'm
So
pretty sure they don't get along. I'm
yeah,
almost positive.
because didn't Elon say that Sam was doing something illegal and they were working together, but then they weren't? It's a long story that I don't really remember all the
Yeah,
bullet
so
points on. So
ooh, ow. There's a bunch of animosity between them over OpenAI. And Elon Musk basically says that like he violated the original contract, Sam, um, and that like the money he contributed isn't being used the way he wants it to be. It wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't what was agreed upon. And Sam's position is like, no, that's not true. At some point, I feel like one of the two of them leaked their text conversations, and I
classy,
do believe it was Sam in this particular case because I think he's like trying to paint Musk in a more poor light.
right?
But you know, it's basically like middle school politics taking place in Techland.
I don't know. Reading all these, I always ask for your thoughts, but I wanted to go over that first. That's why I picked all this. We're going to start big with the people that are on the dais. We'll talk a little bit about Elon. I'll probably talk about some other stuff I've been reading. But what did you think, like reading all this? And I remember pitching this to you, and you go, "I said, isn't that crazy that like all these?" And you go, "Sure." Like you weren't really that. You were like, I mean, I guess they all gave to the fund. I mean, is it like? Listen, you and I have different philosophies on technology and stuff. I mean, are you just at a base level, are you okay with this? I remember you asked, are you okay with like all these people just like, you know, all this stuff about Zuckerberg like removing fact checking and like,
Oh,
well,
go,
I'm just saying
narrow the scope of the question, Joe.
well, I mean,
Uh,
just all these
am I
people.
okay with tech? Of course I am. That's what I do
Yeah,
for work.
no, I know, but I mean, like these people just like Bezos's Amazon Prime is paying for a Melania Trump documentary. These things seem like they're kind of like gifts, all but another name, And I don't know. Does it make you feel uneasy? I mean, you like tech and stuff. I mean, is it weird that like all these people are like just hanging out with Trump? Like even Trump said that at a press conference. He goes, "Man, everybody likes me now." It's like, well, you
Yeah,
are
it's
the president.
mhm. Um. So one, yes, it makes me uneasy anytime anyone with money is close to the president and his advisors and aides. Um, Happens with every single president, has for decades, if not since the very beginning. Actually, come to think of it, it's happened since the very beginning. People with power want to exert influence, and
Yeah, yeah.
in the United States of America, money equates to power.
Yeah, I watched a PBS documentary on the Gilded Age in like the late or middle 1850s, and maybe not Carnegie. I'm trying to think. Anyway, one of the
Rockefeller,
probably one of the railroad guys. I think
Carnegie.
it was Carnegie. It was like one of the railroad guys. Basically, the U.S. was in a bad way, and Carnegie just went to the White House and said, "Hey, I know a bunch of rich people that could float you a loan. We just need X, Y, and Z." I think it was. I can't even remember. Anyway, the president's like,
Contracts, these
yeah, it's like, I
regulations.
mean, this kind of stuff happens, but like, the fact that I just brought up the Gilded Age is probably like a bad, Here's the other
Yeah, but I
example
mean,
of this.
it's gone on forever. Um, so, am I a fan of it? No. As I watch this, I see Bezos, who has historically been more left leaning, is notorious for being more left leaning. Amazon's a very left and more liberal company. Um, uh, the Washington Post is a more left and liberal company. Bezos's involvement and his gift in Amazon, I think, is kissing the ring. It's basically saying like, "Hey, don't come after us because Trump has made all these threats to come after his enemies."
I
So
don't
these
know.
guys are now kind of sidling up to him like, "Hey, we're not so bad. Like, congrats."
I don't know if Bezos is really left wing. I mean, there was a whole controversy with the Washington Post where, for the first time in a long time, they didn't endorse a candidate. Well, the editorial,
Right.
the editor board didn't want
Which
to.
the first time since he's owned the paper, I think he saw the writing on the wall and he
Yeah.
didn't want to put himself in a position where
And he,
strongman tyrant president will come crush him.
Well, yeah, I mean, Trump already threatened to throw Zuckerberg in jail. I mean, that's a quote that's been
Right.
floating around forever. Hence
Right.
Zuckerberg,
And
hey man, we're going to Texas. We got rid of fact checking, and
right. Except, weren't you the one that told me that they already had a pretty large amount of their people in Texas?
I was quoting Kara Swisher, who's done a lot of like interviews with these people, and she said, "Hey, two things. One, they already have some people in Texas. They're just moving everybody down there." And she said she knows Mark and knows his parents. She brings that up in interviews. She wrote a memoir called Burn Book, which I haven't read yet, but I've seen many interviews with her because all this tech stuff, people are starting to interview her more and more. Well, I mean, there's like a renewed whatever. And she said, the thing is, she goes, I just want to tell you, Mark, like, not every one of your fact checkers is a liberal. Like several of your fact checkers are conservative. You make it sound like it's like this liberal thing, but like there's a mix of people fact checking your stuff. So
There are, but there is a flagrant lean, right? It's not like it's, 50-50 conservative liberal fact checker. It's like 70-30, maybe 60-40 if you're like being generous.
well, I mean,
Um,
I don't know if you can quantify
the
it.
other end of that spectrum, though, is like for me personally, I am not a fan of what's happened to X. There's a reason it's shrinking. People will say it's doing better. Oh, it's a bastion of free speech. And in a lot of ways, right, it definitely supports the principles of free speech more openly, and that I do support and agree with. But what it's invited, not because of what Musk did, well, actually, probably related to what Musk did too, but also just because of the public discourse around it. It invited in that audience as opposed to bringing in a more balanced audience. Um,
Yeah,
the
I,
the other reality of it is, right, is unfortunately it is the right leaning commentators that feel like they're being oppressed and who are the ones who are espousing a lot of the stuff that normally wouldn't be um, free speech. It would be like, oh, this is offensive.
right.
Um,
I
and
disagree.
that's, unfortunate. It comes from the left too. I'm not trying to say it's all right. But with Facebook going this route with it, I think they're also doing a strategic move. I think they're looking at, okay, the writing's on the wall. A lot of people are upset with. I mean, this is like the late '90s, early 2000s when the anti-PC uh, revolution was going through, and then people were swinging back to being like
Yeah, I
not
mean,
PC.
all these companies are getting rid of DEI as well, and I don't know. Like I just this picture. I know it's like photoshopped from Daily Beast, but like these people will all be sitting at the desk. I think what it
Mhm.
is because it's the quantity that makes you focus. Like whoa, like before Biden would have this person or one
Well, and I think it's
or
not
two
just
people.
quantity. My guess is it was the same quantity before too, of wealthy individuals. I don't know if it was this quantity of like top 10 richest people in the world, and
Right.
three of them are going to be there, something along those lines. And on top of it, they are all hyper well known personalities.
So
Whereas,
did you hear
like,
it?
maybe Soros would be the known billionaire left wing contributor, but, like, I mean, that guy's too old to get up there. I mean, mind
Yeah,
you, he's
he's like 80
probably
something.
praying to the same demons that McConnell is, but
Yeah, it's the same altar. Uh,
sorry
yeah, I
if
think he's
anyone's
like
a fan of McConnell or Soros, but I'm just making a joke about, like, the damaged hand with
well, there,
McConnell.
like it's whatever age limits, term limits for age, whatever. I don't know.
That's the
I think that's what it is. I mean, the thing I think with Elon is it was so much money. I mean, I can't. I mean,
Well, it's so obvious too, right? Like a lot of people, in my opinion, a lot of very wealthy individuals may lean right and were supporting their candidate. I think a lot of wealthy individuals that we're talking about here played neutral and see the victory, and now they're hedging their bets.
right. I think that's what it is.
Musk
I think it's
Musk was all in and had been all in. I don't
yeah,
know, halfway into the campaign,
right. Well, I
and
think
very public. Was
on
on the campaign trail,
yeah. Well, I think on
paying for people to be knocking doors,
yeah, on X he was like all in, and then when he showed up at
right?
the rally, it was towards the end of the campaign, wasn't it? Like the last 3 or 4 months. Anyway, it wasn't like a year. And I think publicly on X, he's like, oh, I'm more right and all this stuff. And then whatever. I think, and then there's a lot of talk of in an article we're going to get to in a bit, the idea that like he has many government contracts, but he's also going to be in charge of government efficiency, and like how is that going to affect? There's obviously a conflict of interest if your company has these contracts coming up, but you also have to somehow cut spending. He's already admitted in an interview that like originally he said he wanted to cut 2 trillion out of the budget, but then someone said, can you really do that? And he goes, you always try to shoot for an overage and end up in the middle somewhere. So I think he said 1 trillion is more likely.
And if you look historically at Musk's rhetoric, right? He always overstates what actually ends up happening, but he sets moonshot goals, and
he said he's going to send a guy to Mars 10 years ago, and that was what 13, where he said it was like 13 years ago. He said he was going to put someone on Mars 10 years ago or something like that. Yeah, it was like 13. I don't know. I think 13 years ago, there's a video of him going around saying, we're going to put someone on Mars in 10 years. And that was like 13 or 14. Well, probably 14 years ago now. But yeah, so it's like...
Over 3 or 4 years behind.
Yeah, so he's 3 or 4. Self-driving cars haven't really... I don't want to... We're just going to talk about Musk the whole time. But he does have
He originally proposed, Joe.
Yeah, he does. He does have, a lot of contracts. And so this article from Chris Isidore from CNN talking about like his net worth and like how many contracts he has right here. Government is crucial to Musk's net worth. And they do point out in the article, he didn't get all of his money from the government, just big, like it was always at the point of, it seems like that he was like near insolvency with certain companies that he'd reach out and get a loan. It would like float him enough for him to like take off, no pun intended with SpaceX, but it was the idea of like, we're not doing well. Then they got a government loan, they got the money, and then they were able to produce, like by some measures in the like middle through the article, by some measures, little of his wealth is thanks to taxpayers. Musk is worth an estimated $326 billion, according to Bloomberg's real-time billionaire tracker. I did not know Bloomberg had a real-time billionaire tracker. I wonder if it's an app I could download and really feel miserable about myself. Anyway, his companies have received only, and I like how they quote that in the article, only tens of billions from government contracts and programs, but in other ways, virtually all of his net worth can be pinned to government help. Tesla and SpaceX got started and survived their early days with assistance from state and federal policies, government contracts, and loans. That, quote, the foundation for Musk's financial success has been the U.S. government, said Daniel Ives, tech analyst for Wedbush Securities, and the value of Tesla and SpaceX doesn't come from their profits so far. Instead, their value comes from the investment in their future worth, such as Tesla's publicly traded stock and private funding rounds for SpaceX. And there has been reports lately that Tesla, their stock is down because they had fewer sales than they've had like in 2024. They weren't,
first year where they were backwards.
Yeah, and I didn't link the article, but like I think it was MSNBC, but MSNBC linked it from somewhere else. But it was the idea that now he's in China building. I don't know if he could sell Teslas in China, but I know his factories are there. But there was like, I think their BYD is the company that makes cars over there, and they're making them very, they're making them very cheap, very cheaply. And so if he is able to sell them in China, people are just buying their own, like we do here, And what was the other big thing? Oh, even though EVs have kind of sagged a little bit in desirability, like Ford, GM, they're kind of doing well with EVs, and like they were way far behind, but now that it seems like reading this article and reading the news that like they're kind of getting into a competitive place with them now where they can start getting them to mass market to sell them. I remember that was a big deal with EVs early on of like, who's going to get to mass market first? And it was Tesla. So everybody was buying Teslas, So you're like, well, I like Coke, and I will always drink Coke because there's no other soda on the market. And then Pepsi came out, and people were like, I should give Pepsi a try. Like it was like now there's other cars out there. So I've heard good things about the different manufacturers. Volvo, I heard their new Beetle style minivan that's electric is like kind of pretty amazing. I've read good things about that. Rivian is kind of in our area in the Northwest. I've seen a lot of Rivens. Or who does Rivian? Do you know who?
Rivi-
Is it, what is it?
Rivian.
Rivian? Who does Rivian?
Not Ian, but Rivian.
Rivian.
Um,
Who does Rivian?
Rivian. Rivian. It was a Bezos startup, largely owned, I think, under Amazon. Might still be. I'd have to look it up. But yeah,
I've
it's not just
actually,
local, right? It's all over, but
I've seen them a lot on the,
largely here because of Amazon.
yeah, and I've seen them here a lot. Like it seems like,
Right.
I don't know. I like
And
the,
they're definitely a lot better looking, nicer looking than the Cybertrucks.
I've seen more Cybertrucks too. What an abomination. Like, just a design thing. I don't even want to get into the build quality because there's other videos that cover that with like actual car people that would be like, this is not great. But just like, it's like an eyesore. It's like, like yeah, it's
How do
just,
you really feel, Joe?
I just see him and I'm like, oh gosh, okay. Yeah, so I, I'm okay with like people getting government contracts, but it,
I don't even think that's their argument here. I think they're talking about government loans as their big position
right.
in this
Well,
article.
well, I
No
like,
contracts, though, and there is a question of, conflict of interest.
right. So like, that's my thing is like with this Doge, it's like, how is this going to work? Is he's like, hey, is he actually going to go to like Trump's office and be like, I don't know, this SpaceX company, they got something, maybe we should give them this. It's like, that's your company, like that's your company. Like, I don't know.
I mean, one, I could completely see him doing that.
Yeah. Like, dude, trying to pull the one
But
over on him.
two, right, like the
I mean, I would do that as a
the
kid.
idea of Doge is we do need government efficiency. Uh, the reality of it is our government is bloated and fat and lazy and like we don't even know where our money's going. Like the DoD fails its audit like
How
every
many
year
was
for
that?
like the last
Six?
7 or 6
Yeah,
years.
was it that six that it failed? It's a big
Uh,
number. I
right.
can't count it on one hand, and that's why when the number goes up, I'm like, I got to keep a tracker somewhere, like just a note app to say it's another year that it failed.
I would wager that government budget office, uh, government accountability, GAO, GBO. Anyway, I would wager that like they probably have a stupid hard time keeping track of where the actual money goes. Like they have broad sweeping strokes of it, but I
Yeah.
doubt that they know the the small bits and pieces. And the reality of it is government just keeps growing and growing and growing. Uh,
Yeah. The other thing I want to point out with stuff like this is, again, I should link the article if I can find it, but there was a report that Musk was trying to remove a requirement that made him report um, Tesla accidents because of self-driving cars. He was trying to remove the agency that did that part of Doge was like his proposal, but it's like that's one of the conflict of interest. It's like, wait a minute, if you're making a car that is unsafe, you're trying to remove the reporting. So it was like it would have. He was trying to turn it into a self-report instead of having to catalog it for like a government agency so they could have a report at the end of the year of like these cars are safe, these cars aren't safe. He was trying to say, oh well, we don't need that agency. We'll just tell you when something goes wrong. And it's like, wait a minute, that's not how this works. So
yeah,
it's
I mean, pretty questionable to me. The uh, the desire to get rid of regulation that directly impacts you when you have the ability to do it is a very questionable thing, but it's also a very human thing. So again, I'm not surprised. I would expect him to do that. It's Elon Musk. It's not like he's a paragon of virtue.
there. I want
He's
to.
done some really cool stuff. He's a really smart guy, but that doesn't mean that he's infallible.
I
In
think.
fact, we very much know better.
I think one thing I heard something really interesting. It was a tech reporter. I wish I had their name, but they'd been reporting on Facebook and other tech for a while. And they were talking to a reporter, and they said, "Well, here's the deal. These people are smart, right? And they're good at business, and they invest, but they don't know everything. The thing is, when they get enough
Right.
money, people start asking them questions about everything. And because they're smart, they think they have to weigh in. It would be okay to say, I don't know. It would be okay to say, I don't know about that or I don't know about this. But all of
I
these,
need more information.
yeah, all these people are like, I'll tell you about the Department of Education and I'll tell you about it's like, you don't know about, you don't know about the department, like whatever. And just case in point, the whole thing with the spending bill, and Musk was tweeting about the spending bill to kill it,
Hmm.
and Trump wanted
Hmm.
it, and there was a lot of speculation of like, did Elon doesn't, I don't think he knows how this works. He doesn't, like, unless he read, like,
Or he does, and he undermined it
well,
well because he
I
does.
just think there was just, well, they, like people said, it's like, he probably just read that night that like, oh, this is how this works, so like this is what I have to do or whatever. But like that's a thing this reporter was bringing up of like, hey, I'm not saying these people aren't smart. It's just like, maybe we shouldn't take them really serious when they don't know everything. Basically, it's like, just take them at their, when Elon starts talking about like the Department of Education or whatever. It's like, yeah, there could be some government spending. We could work on that, and schools suck, but like, to fire every person and all that, like, just like, this is a little bit of a tangent, but like Kash Patel, who wants to clean out the FBI, a lot of people have pointed out, hey, no matter what you think about the FBI, there's a lot of nuts and bolts thing they do. Like, you're really going to fire 200 agents, or whatever Kash Patel wants to do. It's like, that's not, they're doing things that are necessary. Like, so,
You're not helping us. You're making it actually worse. If you want to solve the problem, it's not fire agents. It's probably fire administrators and streamline process.
right. But,
Remove politics from the FBI, which, it is a law enforcement agency. It's not supposed to have politics, but it does.
I mean, most of the reporting I've heard on the FBI is it leans conservative anyway. It's not a 100% conservative organization, but it
Most
traditionally,
law enforcement organizations do.
yeah,
Military, law enforcement,
right,
right? Like they all tend to lean that way.
yeah. So I don't know. It's I don't I think, and I gotta say, this is like taking a step back and reading all this. A lot of, especially liberals, like the squishy liberals like myself, the hippies. We're very depressed now because it's like we don't know what to do. We don't really have direction. We're a rudderless ship, all that kind of stuff. Whatever, all the stuff that's been said about the election. And I think there is a value in just like watching what is happening and saying, "Hey guys, it is weird that Elon Musk." And I will say this: since all this came up, the thing with Doge, and then the H-1B visa thing, there is this like infighting now of like, wait a minute, you don't want to hire Americans, like, and there was this back and forth on Twitter, and then it was reported when he went off on this, like a couple days later, he fired a bunch of Tesla employees that worked in Texas or whatever. Many of them were American citizens, and then within a week or whatever of that fire, before obviously the week before, he had applied for more H-1B visas. So people are like, see, you're doing the thing where we suck. We're terrible as Americans. Yeah.
I mean, look, um, I would prefer that we hire Americans from America that have the skill set to do the jobs we need to get done. Um, Unfortunately, uh, younger Americans aren't pursuing higher education. Younger Americans are less concerned with career advancement and growth, committing themselves to learning skills so they can advance. And for better or worse, right? They talk about Gen Z doesn't want to be like, they don't want to climb the ladder, they don't want to be ambitious, like they've seen the results, and so they're the ones that are quiet quitting, or they're not working the overtime, they're refusing it in favor of work life balance.
Yeah.
So for better or worse on that, yeah, like you shouldn't be working until you die. You should enjoy your life while you're alive because you don't know when it's going to end.
Well,
Um,
well, well. Plus, too, just I'm an old man compared to Gen Z, and the idea that there was stability, back in the day, like all the people from other generations are like, yeah, you should work overtime. It's like, yeah, but they're just gonna fire me, or they're
mhm.
like, there's no pension. There used to be a pension when you worked at this same company. There's no pension at company X or company Y, or it's
Well,
hard.
what is the end result of me putting in all that time, effort, and energy, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger argument here. It's not
Mm.
even the stability thing, right? Like, what good does it do me? There is also the factor, right? Like, if I work hard, where's the loyalty in the company? Like, they're not going to reward me for my extra effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the point I was getting to isn't that. The point I was getting to is that when you have foreigners, people in foreign countries who are more ambitious and more driven, who have higher knowledge and skill sets, like, if you want to make your country better, you want to make your business better, you want those people here. This is the
Yeah.
conversation we had this morning, Joe, of the idea of like, uh, we were talking immigration more broadly, but in this context, like every country on earth wants to draw in the greatest talent on earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
It advances the country. It makes it stronger. It makes it more economically viable, more
Yeah.
competitive.
Mm.
And this notion here in the United States that like closing borders is racist, and yet so many of the countries that our liberal elites and leftists point to as being these great paragons of liberal thinking and ideology close their borders. You have to be able to prove that you have a skill, that you can get a job, that you can produce an income so that you're not a burden on the existing state because they have such expensive state systems,
Yeah.
universal health care, um, you know, higher levels of tax burden to pay for social safety nets. Uh, they're a lot pickier.
Yeah. I will. The critique of the visas here is the idea that some like there's been studies on this, but like those visa holders can make less, right? Like you don't have to pay them as much as you do an American citizen, and so
Well, frequently they're gonna see a higher or a lower American. Well, okay, I shouldn't say this. I'm gonna preface it further. I'm gonna back up. So, depending on what foreign country these H-1B visa holders are coming from, and a lot of times they're coming from countries where um, more impoverished and the dollar has a higher exchange rate. They're looking at, we'll say $100,000 salary is a ton of money compared to an American who's going to be like, no, 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 I'm worth 150.
yeah. Well, that's it. And then also it's the idea that if you're for whatever reasons, if the employer decides to terminate your employment, you get deported, right? So you
Right.
don't, it's not stability. Um,
But I don't think businesses necessarily care as much about that, right? Like when you're going in the argument direction you're going on pay, right? Like that foreign worker is more likely to take less money because it seems bigger to them and it allows
right.
them to have a higher quality of life than they may in their home country.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Depends on the country.
Yeah, it depends.
But
Like they could want to immigrate here and get a green card and all that, all that kind of stuff, be naturalized.
exactly,
But
and they could
but
be
I
going through
mean,
that process while
yeah,
they're working the H-1B visa. That is a negative side effect of the H-1B visa. But the business they're looking at like, okay, well there is talent here in the U.S. and that's the argument that most conservatives make of like, quit giving these H-1B visas and hire the Americans. Even if you're paying them better, that's better for America.
right, yeah,
Whereas, the argument against H-1B visas is right, like when you issue them, you hire foreigners who may not stay in the country and or are shipping money back home to their home country,
or they're just
or
making less
who
money and it's kind of or they could be
are making
deported.
less money to grow the business, but you're not actually helping the American tax base, the American
Right.
population, right? And again, right, that's really easy to point at it and be like, it's racist, but like, no, this is our country,
I don't.
and we should want our country to thrive and be better.
Yeah, but I think yeah,
I don't mind the theme of make America great again. I mind the fact that there's this supposition that somehow in the 50s America was amazing because I mean we've talked about that.
yeah. I mean, the best thing I saw was Candace Owens on
Oh,
stage. Candace Owens was on stage at some event, and there was some other. It was like rappers, like Ludacris, and like I think there's other, and they're like, "Tell us when America was great." Like, tell us like the year. And she was like
Mhm.
the 50s, and they're like, you mean when we couldn't vote? Like when. So I don't know. You could go back in time and be like, when, and that's the thing is like, when has America, and it depends on, and then as
How are
a
you measuring great? What's your
yeah.
yardstick? What's the KPI?
KPI. Oh god.
Come on, Joe. Come on. What's the KPI for this?
Wait, KPI. I thought I know what ROI is.
Key performance indicator.
Okay, all right.
It's your measuring stick. Like what
Okay.
is what are your performance measurements to indicate that you're doing well?
I
And I
was
think a lot of people look back at like 1940s, 1950s, and they see a determined nation that worked very hard and defeated the Nazis, went in and rebuilt Germany, went in and rebuilt Japan,
uh,
that became this industrial powerhouse, economic
yeah.
powerhouse, military powerhouse,
Yep.
and they forget the daily life of a whole lot of Americans wasn't all that great.
Wasn't great. Well, they I think they want to, make America great for a very small bunch of people, and I think this.
No, no, no. I don't think that's what's intended in that saying. I think there's sort of a blind assumption of like what that was is what we want, and there's a forgetting of like what we've moved away from. Right? The argument on family values, like the world was better when the man worked and the woman stayed home. Well, you know what? I know a lot of mothers would probably like to stay home with their kids. I think a lot of mothers probably wouldn't mind staying at home and taking care of the house if the husband was working hard, was also still respectful, was still involved in the work in the house, and didn't treat her like a servant.
Yeah, it's man, that's a whole
A lot
nother
of women
video.
also want to grow their careers and they want to be out in the workforce and they want to achieve things. And that also is something that should be allowed. But you go back to the 50s and that like model nuclear family, and that was just not okay. You'd
If
be
you,
shamed.
if
It's
you
still very common in Japan.
if you think about it too, that's a massive snapback from World War II because men were over there fighting in World War II. Women ran all the factories and worked. And the
Yeah.
moment the men came back, they said, "Go back to the kitchen." It's like, wait a minute, I was just riveting
I've heard
together.
some pretty off the wall, like far right people, not the majority of the people that I know that are conservative, but I've heard them be like,
Is
downfall of America was when women worked factories in World War II.
who's gonna build
What?
the planes?
Right, that's the obvious counter argument.
Who
But
is
like the
gonna?
argument was like, well, they let women do the work, and then they decided that's what they wanted to do, and they didn't want to be in the house anymore. It's like
There was nobody build. Who was gonna build the
this is like the
planes?
thing you sent me the other day about the thing you were watching that the video you sent me. I think after the last podcast of the guy that was like, sex before marriage is gay sex.
Oh yeah. There's like a MAGA couple that like
What?
it's so weird. Everybody talks about being in a bubble. I know we're going on a tangent a little bit, but like that is a bubble
Yeah.
where you're like, man, that the thing that gamers always say to each other is a joke. I mean it, man. Both those people need to go outside and touch grass. I mean, it's like go have a conversation with like just go to a coffee shop and just anyway. My thing with like Musk and everything is I don't know if I'm troubled, but I'm aware of what it's like, okay, you have my attention type thing. The Leonardo DiCaprio meme of like, before you had my interest, now you have my attention. Like that idea of like, okay, now I'm definitely going to watch. Are you going to get an office in the White House? Is SpaceX going to get a contract? Is your competitor Lockheed Martin not going to get a contract because you're part of Doge? And as many people pointed out, governing is hard. Everything he says that he wants to do at Doge, it's not really a government organization. I mean, it's a committee, but like they don't have power. They're going to make a report. They're going to submit the report. Trump could literally go, "Hey, thanks so much for the report," and hold on to the binder, the pages. I could just see him holding it in his hand. Then Musk walks out of the room and Trump throws it in the trash. You know what I mean? Like what are we doing? Like that's what could happen. He could be like, "Thanks, man. Thanks so much. We're going to go ahead with the tax cuts, for the we're going to extend the tax cuts that we had in our first whatever." So, yeah. I'm trying to think. What was the other? There was one more article I had here. Oh, yeah. This I just put up because to me, this was a taste of maybe what's going to happen. So, this is by the Dallas Morning News. I don't think is it got a date. Oh yeah, right here. It's by the Reuters news agency. Routers, whatever. I always say Reuters wrong. I said it 3 times there. It was probably all wrong. This is November 27th. But billionaire Elon Musk, tasked with slashing government costs by U.S. President-elect Donald Trump on Wednesday, called for the elimination of the federal regulatory agency charged with protecting consumers in the financial sector. The comment on The comment on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau follows Musk's recent appointment to the government efficiency role, further amplifying the influence of the world's richest man who donated millions of dollars to help Trump get elected. Delete CFPB, quote, there are too many duplicate regulatory agencies. Of course, the CFPB did not immediately respond to comment. By the way, it says him and Vivek will co-lead a newly created Department of Government Efficiency. But did you hear the news that they want Vivek to be the
Vivek's running or considering running governor in Ohio?
Right. So he's being pushed out because he made fun of Zach Morris. How dare he make fun of Zach Morris?
I mean, that's pretty low blow, Joe.
It is. Well, plus, as many people pointed out, Zach scored higher than Screech did. And his tweet said, people were more like Screech and not Zach Morris. It's like, but Zach Morris scored higher, so you want Zach Morris. Whatever. Anyway, I can just go on this tangent. But do you think Vivek's being pushed out of the Doge? Do you think he's going to be the governor of all? Because I heard there's a scuttlebutt there. People were like, he can't win the governor. He's got to run.
I don't know if he's being pushed out. I mean, to me, that seems pretty dang prestigious. In fact, I think that would be a better role than a non-official pseudo-government agency that probably has no pay.
Right.
And he can establish a name for himself, and he can grow his career. I mean, honestly, it could be them sort of grooming him up to be a follower in the runner-up for president after Trump. Of course, everyone thinks that the anointed one is going to be Vance, but
I think it'll be Vance. I think Vance is going to run in 28. I think he's going to be the.
We'll see how the next 4 years go, right?
Well, yeah, that's true. If it goes horribly and the plane goes down in flames, and they'll be like, "Yeah, Vance is out."
That anyone on that ticket is toxic, right? We don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it happened to Harris, right? I mean, people weren't happy with Biden. She got shoved in the closet, then came out, to run in 100 days, and then people were like, "Who is this?" You know what I mean? Who is? And it could happen to Vance, like. I've been hearing less from him. He was very vocal, obviously, to the run-up to the election. Been hearing less and less about him. Is he going to be
because every time he opens his mouth, he says something that's embarrassing to the ticket.
It's embarrassing and it's strange. It's just strange. I don't, I thought I spent a lot of time online, but apparently he spends much more time online. And anyway, you're like, wait, postmenopausal female women? What? That's your mother-in-law. Don't you love her? Isn't she? She's helping raise your kids. Those are great.
I'm not going to say what I was about to say, but yeah, we'll move on.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So, what do you think about Elon wanting to get rid of the CFPB?
I mean, we sort of already talked about this, Joe. Right? Like, this is someone who has the president's ear, who wants to get rid of or hamstring a government regulatory body that directly oversees his own businesses, like. Of course he's going to want to get rid of something that puts roadblocks in the way of him achieving the things that he wants to do. And he has the power, muscle, money, and authority to do it. If he only had the wherewithal to do it behind closed doors, he'd probably be more successful at it.
Yeah, I mean, also as an aside, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit, but Mark Zuckerberg has also been on Joe Rogan saying there's this agency run by Elizabeth Warren, which isn't true, called the CFPB. And I said privately to you, but I mean, honestly, like, I got that really mystified me because I'm like, say whatever you want for Zuckerberg, but like you have lawyers, they have briefed you on this stuff. You've been involved with the CFPB to go on Rogan and be like, man, what is this agency? It's like, what are you talking about? Like even Rogan's audience was like, hey man, this doesn't sound right. Those are like in the comments of the video of like, this, what, really? Like not that everybody there knew what the CFPB was, but it's like, wait, this guy doesn't know? Like
was it the podcast I recently listened to with Cenk Uygur where Uygur called out? I might be getting the pronunciation of the name wrong, so anyone.
Oh, it's Cenk.
It's
Cenk Uygur.
Yeah. Sorry to anyone that's a fan of Young Turks. I think he was the one that called out that Rogan is more. He's not as much conservative as he is populist.
Yeah.
And
Well, I
right,
think
so
I think
his audience is going to lean that way, right?
well, Rogan does that too, though. He leans, well, there's tons of clips floating around him when he had Bernie Sanders on his show, and he talked about, helping homeless people and all this, and now he's kind of against it. Him and Zuckerberg, I mean, for good or ill, I mean, right now I think for ill, but they literally taste the wind, They stick their finger to the wind and go, well, this is the way things are blowing. We're going to do this, and this. We're getting rid of this. We're going full bore. I mean, like many people have brought up, if there's a Democratic administration in 2028, is Zuck going to be like, hey, we brought back, the fact checkers and, DEI is back. Like, then you're really going to be like, whoa, man, this was all like.
It won't be fact checkers at that point. It won't be DEI. It'll be something else, right? Like, and the answer to that is yes. If you want to be a large and successful business in the United States of America, it's not so much that you're looking at the administration, but you do want to make the administration happy.
Yeah.
It's that you're looking at the pulse of your consumer.
Well,
and, right. This is putting pride logos up as virtue signaling.
Yeah, a friend of mine, a gay friend of mine, said it's really funny. He's like, man, every month, what is gay pride? May, I think, or June. He's just like, yeah, it's like, give me your gay money. He's like, really? Because I was spending money last month. Like, I don't know why this, like, I went to Target, like last month.
Changed.
Yeah, like I don't.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the flag, I guess. I don't.
It goes both ways, though. Here's the problem. If they don't do it, now they're anti-LGBTQ.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do it, it's insulting because you want my gay money, and if you don't do it, then it's insulting because obviously you're anti-gay and you're not supporting us.
Yeah. I think companies have actually started
and that's what Jank was talking about too in that podcast of like the reason that he's kind of stopped calling himself a Democrat and pulled a little bit more central is because he's gotten sick of the purity culture within progressives and liberals. Like, if you're not 100% with us, or if you even remotely question one of our ideas before it's ever been vetted, you're obviously with them.
Yeah, I've said that too. Like, I don't, whatever, I'm too old.
Oh, obviously, right? Like, you're also not a 100% purebred liberal. Sorry, Joe.
I'm going to get that 23andMe politics thing and see what it comes up like 45% liberal. Yes! I don't know. For me, governing is hard. So he wants to get rid of this agency. Yeah. Strangely enough, I think Trump's pick for labor has like sided with unions. It is kind of liberal, and it surprised liberals who are like, wait, you're...
Hey. You don't have to be liberal to support unions, Joe.
Apparently you do. Apparently you do.
I mean, look, you have a very good friend who's very conservative, who's extremely pro-union.
Yeah.
A lot of people that work for Boeing are Trump voters, but are very pro-union.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
Didn't one of the largest unions in the country endorse Trump?
Yeah, and then they came back and said that was a mistake. They looked like idiots because Trump got on a call with Elon on X, their audio, whatever, spaces. And Trump was like, man, when you see a union, you just go in and fire everybody. I probably shouldn't say that, but that's crazy. So then the union leader got on it. They asked him, obviously, not Sean Fain, the Teamster guy. They asked him, what do you think? And he goes, we look like idiots for supporting Trump when he's going to break up talk like that about unions. So yeah, it kind of bit him in the butt. Going, yeah, we should.
My point being is that there are people. There's enough of them that they moved that direction this time around, which is the first time in a super long time that unions had actually moved towards and endorsed a conservative presidential nominee.
Oh, you know what I heard too. So, you know why?
We all watched The Wire. We know how.
That's so good. I need to watch it. I told my wife, I was like, if you watch it, I'll just sit down and watch it with you. Because she's like, I've never seen it. I'm like, I'll sit down and watch the whole thing with you.
I watched it with Lisa. She really enjoyed it.
It's so good. You watch the whole thing? Did you finish it or?
Yeah.
That's so good. So I did hear the full story. I think it was from Ro Khanna, who's the representative in California. He talked about why Elon doesn't like the Biden administration, why he turned. So there was several things. There was like two big things. One,
what is Ro's interpretation of this?
He said there was a EV summit at the White House, and Biden did not invite Musk. So Musk was like, "What the heck?" He did that because he wanted to focus on union plants, GM, Ford, whatever.
Oh,
Musk doesn't
okay.
like unions, has been busted for union, but like talked a lot about union busting.
Been attacked for union busting.
And so Rose's whole thing was he goes, listen, I have to work with these guys, right? Like I've met Musk. I have to, we give him contracts. I'm representing California. They're in California. He goes, if that was me, he goes, Sean Fain was there. The leader of the machinists union or whatever. I don't know Sean Fain's official title, but he's like the head of the whatever team, not the Teamsters, whatever manufacturers union. He said I would have sat them next to each other. So because Sean Fain is very passionate. I've seen many speeches where he talks about how great unions are. Obviously, he's the leader of the union. They could have talked. He goes, that's how I would have handled it. I would have just not invited Elon. I would have invited him. And he said, and two, COVID. Because it was California, there was lockdowns, and they shut down Musk's factories and said, you can't operate. And now, I mean, there's articles saying they were ineffective, but at the time we thought that was effective. I'm even as a liberal, I'm reading the thing going, hey, we screwed up, right? But like in the moment, people were angry. Government can't do that. So they said those were like the two things that kind of radicalized Musk to be like, screw the Biden administration, and then his brain broke with the guy. Remember, there was those kids that were like stuck in a cave, and there was a diver. There was a guy who was going to get a team.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, I could get a
The whole
team.
pedo guy.
Yeah, and it's like that's like the moment it just went off the rails with Musk, and and he also it's been reported that he's even said, and it's been reported that he's done ketamine for a while. I think it was the Times reported it, and then the board of directors was worried because he was doing drugs allegedly, and well, he admitted about the ketamine. I think I heard him say
Yeah,
like,
depending on where you are, it isn't an approved treatment for mental health disorders.
right, but I mean, is he whatever?
I think it's actually approved at this point.
Well, yeah, but I mean, is Elon going to the doctor to get? I don't think he's.
I mean, you can get it through uh, online medical resources.
Okay, that's a 2025 equivalent of I know a guy.
So the reason I am a little bit hesitant on that is one, right? Like I have my own mental health issues that you and I are very familiar with, my own depression.
Yeah, you talked about it.
And I don't want to belittle or talk down on something that has proven to be very effective for a lot of people. Um, Also, having been a raver in my younger years, um, at that time, ketamine was a party drug. And I am sorry, but like, I don't understand how anyone would use ketamine for fun. Like I've never done it, so I don't know. But like my understanding of like an entertainment level, recreational dosage of ketamine is like how you react to it would not be something I would want to do. Right? They call it sinking into a K hole, going into a K
Yeah,
hole. Like you get lost.
I again, Kara Swisher. I heard an interview with her, and she brought her brother on, who is a doctor and does surgery,
Mm-hmm.
and he talked about ketamine because of these reports, and he's like, "Here's kind of what ketamine does." He goes, "I, as someone who does surgery, like we love ketamine because it's not an opiate, and people get out of ketamine faster than opiates, so there's less addiction, and you're able to recover faster. So it's amazing, in that respect." He says, I can't talk about, the individual amount he's using, but we use it for anesthesia all the time. And, I mean, Musk admitted it, like as much of like being in a higher state because of ketamine
I
and
mean,
stuff.
but
And
he smoked pot on Rogan's show. Like he's never
yeah,
been secret about it, right?
yeah. And I mean, I could see by his board of directors going, hey man, like you have to get government clearances. If you're gonna do that, at least I don't know. Don't be on Rogan doing, don't be on Rogan doing it. Like just do it at home, or I mean,
I mean, yeah,
stay up till
it's questionable.
stay up till 5 a.m. playing Diablo. I don't know, or Path of Exile
But
2, which is another.
you know, it's a privately owned company. It's what he does, right? Tesla's public, but um, they could. I don't know. Can they forcibly remove him? I don't know how much of the company he owns. Does he
Yeah.
own enough that?
Mm.
I mean, shareholders did vote to not give him the bonus,
Did
so
he
they have enough
actually?
authority to do that.
I didn't hear about that. Did he actually not get the bonus?
The shareholders voted to not, and then he sued, and then I think like they gave it to him, and then it got appealed and couldn't. And I might be wrong in this, right? I've been so confused on the whole chain of events. I do think ultimately he did not get the bonus,
Mm.
but I
Cool.
might be wrong. It may have gone the other way. Maybe ultimately he did get the bonus, depending on where they ended up in the appeals process.
So, what do you think? I mean, the government, obviously, and everything. What do you think is going to happen to like Doge and him? Do you think he's going to be able to make? I mean, obviously, he's going to make this report. Do you think anything is going to happen with the report if he has to make this Doge report about cutting this and cutting that? And um,
Maybe. I would like to think that Doge is able to put together a comprehensive report of government inefficiency and efficiency, with a series of metrics that actually make sense for what's a measurement of success and not success, or efficiency
oh,
and not efficiency.
right,
And then our government is able to handle that piece of paper, right? Like
right,
Bernie Sanders has already been like, yeah, you want to do that? I don't afford that,
yeah.
right?
Which again,
Let's
the bad
not
parts.
everything, but like certain things. Like even people on the left are like, yeah, let's do it. Um,
Yeah, that's the one thing that bugs me is like it was an interview with Ro Khanna where it was like some never Trumpers, which I like the bulwark, but they're like, "Are you really gonna work with Doge?" And he's like, "Listen, if you have to work with him, what are we supposed to be obstructionists? Like, we have to get stuff done in the government, and if they have a good idea, then of course we're gonna be like, okay, that's a good idea,
Right.
like,
And this is the thing that drives me nuts with modern politics is that publicly, whether or not it's the case behind closed doors, publicly, our politicians are like, ah, they're the bad guy. Bad guy. Nothing they do is good. It's good.
I
And the reality of it is like, Trump's had good ideas.
yeah, I
Biden had good ideas.
I will say,
Doesn't mean they all are. Doesn't mean many of them are.
I
But
will
they exist, and we should recognize them for their merits.
yeah, I will say it will be funny to see. I heard the first bills they want to put out are the extending the tax cuts, and they're gonna, the Republicans are gonna have a majority.
Yep.
So we'll see if that happens. Immigration with all the H-1B1 visa stuff. Steve Bannon's on. I know he's not an elected official, but he's got his War Room podcast, riling everybody up. He said that Musk will be gone by inauguration day, or he'll run him out. I'm like, no, he won't. Like, you won't. He's gonna be at the dais.
Right? Hurry up, Bannon.
I will. I do want to see Bannon's.
Don't go long, bud.
I do want to see Bannon's timeline. Like the moment Musk sits down, if someone just screen grabs it and send it to Bannon, and go, "What happened?" I thought he was going to be out. I want to see if his timeline explodes with just pictures of Musk. Like, what's going on?
Inauguration day is still there, Steve.
He's still
Maybe you
there.
don't have as much power as you thought you did, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I mean, look, I expect some good things will come out of this presidency. I expect bad things will come out of it. I read an article. I shouldn't say I read the article. I saw a headline yesterday that the Trump administration is already lining up people to begin deportations in Chicago after Inauguration Day.
Yeah, I heard that.
Like they're already preparing. Um, I don't know why Chicago is where it's being highlighted, but that's what the headline was. I didn't read it.
I
Um,
mean,
I
I
really hope the mass deportation thing doesn't take place in that particular way.
are they going to try to conscript the military? Because that's a big deal. Or are they
I,
going to try to
I
use
don't know.
ICE? We'll find out.
I didn't read the article, Joe. I just saw the headline.
I just heard that as well from a reporter that's like this. They kind of plan to do it. It's like, all right, well, again, I mean, a lot of people have said it, but like governing is hard. You want to do this stuff. You want to run on this stuff. We'll see. We're running out of time, Evan. Is there anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
Same stuff I always bring up, even though I haven't made anything recently. Of course, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, you need some real estate advice, check out my YouTube channel, youragentguide.com, or
Are
Your
the
Agent Guide on YouTube.
Am I not getting the tips anymore from Facebook? I subscribed. I got tips from you. Are they not coming through? Or do I need to check again? Because I haven't. Usually, I would get like a little like thing from you. I'll check.
They're still getting posted. If they're not, I need to double check to make sure my link didn't break.
Yeah, because like I get a.
Thank you for bringing it up.
I don't know. Yeah, I usually got like because I was going. Because I'm old.
That's on my Facebook and my Instagram feed.
Right.
Just
Because I'm
daily
actually.
kind of updates and tips on the market.
That's always a joke of like, who still uses Facebook? I'm like, I don't know. There's some people on there. You're like, oh, good, they're doing good, and I just closed Facebook. But I do get your things every once in a while. I'm like, I didn't know that about the interest rates or whatever. So yeah, make sure your link isn't broken. Yeah, I same old, same old. I'm I'm doing the D&D pod once a week now with the friends. Avin, we got a schedule. You're going to be on. It's going to be like probably in June. I was just looking at the schedule around there. So you're going to have you on. But yeah, I still do the gaming thing. I do it once a month now instead of once a week. It's just the games I cover are longer, and I can't work a full-time job and do 2 other podcasts and then play a 40-hour game and do a 30-minute video essay on it. I'm deficient. Yeah, I'm deficient in that way. So, yeah, I did my game of the year. That came out on the 15th, so a couple days ago. Check that out. It's Gaming with Grief as a channel. We do have Evan on there, like I said, every once in a while. He will beat me at some strategy game that we have yet to figure out yet. I mentioned Dune, and you said, don't do that. It's hard. I'll beat you. And then I brought up another game, and you said, I'll beat you easily. So, really helping my self-esteem a lot on here.
I mean, look. I do the strategy games, and I've got an unfair advantage at that. And maybe you've grown in your skill set, Joe. But given the last time we tried to do a strategy game,
I have not. I have not. I will say I made the joke to some friends last night. I was like, what I need to do, it needs to be like that episode of The Simpsons where I get a ringer, they train me, then you and I play, I beat you once, and then retire and say I'm no longer going to play a strategy game.
Are you going to like hire a film crew too to like follow where you're training? And it'll be like, get the...
Yeah, I'll be jump roping with like the old style mice that I just stick together and like, yeah, I'll beat you. Probably not. Again, subscribe, tell your friends and family about the pod. Again, it's gwgpodfellows@gmail.com. Let us know what episode you saw, what questions, comments, all that kind of stuff. We post on the 20th or the 19th of every month. It's usually the 20th, but sometimes I have to go out of town. And maybe the audio will post early. The videos go up at 7 a.m. on the 20th on YouTube. They are on Spotify the day after usually, but again, I've said it before, but Spotify is very picky. I've had it fail. I've had to go back the next day and it goes in 3 minutes or, whatever. So they are on Spotify. There's this kind of a lag. So if you want to see it like day and date on the 20th, YouTube's your best shot. And the audio will go up usually the 19th or the 20th. It depends on when I wake up in the morning, whatever. It's a long story where I know the video will go up at 7 a.m. on the 20th. So if you like looking at our faces, which there's only a very select amount of people that like looking at my face. Yeah. Thank you everybody who's watching. I think yes, thank you. Well, I need to shave. Thanks to everybody who watched, subscribes, and share it with the people. Say, hey, 2 reasonable people that talk about politics and don't yell at each other. Avin and I are probably going to share some cat videos of our adorable cats because they are adorable. So have a good month, everybody, and we'll see and talk to everybody after the inauguration.